Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer. Today we're here for yet another Civilization 6 Leader Spotlight, where today we'll be taking a look at Kupe of the Maori, which I think that Kupe is probably a lot of people's favorite leader in Gathering Storm, and I can definitely see why, and we'll talk about why, well, right now. So Kupe's first ability is known as Kupe's Voyage, and it makes it so that he begins the game in an ocean tile. Additionally, he gains a free builder and +1 population when settling his first city. His palace receives +3 housing and +1 amenity, and whenever his settlers, just roaming around in the ocean, he receives +2 science and +2 culture per turn before he settles his first city. So Kupe's Voyage is one of the more interesting abilities in the game, and I think it's easily one of the most fun, just to start the game in the middle of the ocean, and then you kind of have to explore around, and you get to choose where you're settling, or where your first city is going to be, based on wherever you find that is a good spot. So this does introduce a lot of randomness into the early game of Kupe, but it also introduces a lot of, your own personal choice, so you're not really limited to whatever spawn that, you're stuck with, and you're able to move around until you find a spawn that you like. So it adds a lot of freedom to the early game of Kupe, and the +2 science and culture make it so that even though you haven't settled a city yet, you're not really losing that much progress on your techs and civics by not having any cities down. Additionally, once you actually go and put down that city, being able to start with a free builder is very nice, for more reasons that we'll talk about when we talk about his second ability. But just having that ability to immediately start building things, you have additional population, and you have extra housing space, all of it's really good, and Kupe's Voyage is both a very fun and a very strong ability. Kupe's second ability is known as Mana, and it makes it so that he begins the game with the sailing and shipbuilding technologies unlocked, and with the ability to enter ocean tiles, which, no duh, of course he starts in the ocean. Hopefully he has the ability to actually move through it. But his embarked units gain +2 movement. All unimproved woods and rainforest gain +1 production, becoming +2 once the conservation civic is unlocked, and fishing boats provide +1 food and culture bomb to adjacent tiles. In addition to this, all resources cannot be harvested, and great writers cannot be earned. So Mana is yet again a very strong ability. For one, starting the game with 2 free technologies is pretty awesome. As I've mentioned, as I've talked about some of the other leaders that start with, Eureka's towards technologies, it's okay, but it just gets shown up by the fact that Kupe literally just starts with 2 whole free technologies. So the fact that that is a thing is very nice. It allows you to move around and settle a lot very early on in the game. The fact that your embarked units gain +2 movement just makes this all a little bit easier. Kupe's early game kind of plays like Phoenicia in a way, in that you kind of just go ahead and you send settlers out across the ocean, and you settle on a bunch of different land masses. You put down little settlements. Loyalty can be an issue, but as long as you're careful, it won't be. But the additional +2 movement for all of your embarked units is nice, because that means your settlers are going to gain movement, and if you have to move any warriors or military units around, they will gain that movement as well. The unimproved woods and rainforest receiving +1 production that rises to +2 once you reach conservation is insanely good. Anytime that a civ gets free yields literally just for existing, that's a good time. And the fact that its production makes it even better, because having a lot of, 3-2 tiles in the early game puts you so much farther ahead production-wise than a lot of the other civs. Same thing goes with the fishing boats. You kind of just get free yields to your fishing boats, and you can culture bomb adjacent tiles, which just gets you, possibly more spots for fishing boats or more luxuries or anything of the sort. So once again, very good. Now the drawbacks to this ability. Resources cannot be harvested. So one thing that I should note is that this doesn't mean that you cannot chop woods and jungle. You still can chop both woods and rainforests, but you can't, say harvest wheat or harvest stone, nor can you remove them if you want to place a district on their tile. So that is something that you have to be very careful with when you're playing Kupe, or I guess not necessarily careful with it, but you just have to keep it in mind that if you place a city specifically to get a district spot that has a resource on it, don't do that, because you're not going to be able to remove the resource, and you're not going to be able to put down the district. And that's where I find that this drawback is most impactful, because really not being able to harvest resources doesn't hurt too bad, because I don't find anymore that I really chop that many resources ever since chopping and, resource removal has received a ton of nerfs, so I don't find that I remove resources very often to get production or food or anything, but it is a little bit of a pain whenever you want to place down districts. The fact that great writers cannot be earned as well is it's bad, but it's really not that bad just because everything else that Kupe has is so insane that I totally understand why you can't recruit great writers, because if you could, Kupe would easily be the most broken Civ in the game. So it's just, something to keep in mind. It doesn't really affect very much of his playstyle at all, but it's just something to keep in mind. So even so, mana, free yields, additional movement, a lot of good stuff, and yet another good strength of Kupe. Moving on to Kupe's unique unit, we have the Toa, which is a replacement for the Swordsman. It has a melee strength of 40, which is up 4 from the Swordsman, a movement of 2, and a production cost of 120, which is plus 30 from the Swordsman. One other thing to note is that it does not require Iron to train, which is very nice, because I know a lot of the unique units in Gathering Storm now do require strategic resources, but the Toa does not. The Toa also will reduce enemy units' combat strength by 5. I should actually put in the word adjacent there, so it reduces adjacent enemy units' combat strength by 5, and this is stackable so that if you have 2 Toas next to an enemy unit, it will receive minus 10 combat strength. The Toa also has 1 build charge to construct a paw. So the interesting thing about the Toa is that from a statistical standpoint, it is exactly the same as the Varu. It has literally the exact same strength, movement, production cost, and special ability. The only thing that differentiates it is that it's unlocked, 1, a little bit later, and 2, it has that build charge to construct the paw. And whenever I did the leader spotlights on India, I don't remember what I said about the Varu, and if I said that they weren't that good, I was definitely wrong, because they are very good, and the Toa are as well. Just having multiple Toa around an enemy unit, reducing its combat strength by, 10 or 15, it's absolutely broken. You can just steamroll through everything. And Toa, if you have like multiple Toa, you can even fight musketmen with them, because they're just that insane whenever you're able to reduce enemy units' combat strength. So Toa, a very good unit, and we'll talk about the paw here, right now. So as I mentioned, the paw is the unique tile improvement that can be constructed by the Toa. It does have 1 build charge to do so. One other thing that I should mention is that the Toa doesn't have 1 build charge, so it's not like the Legion that can, like chop forests or anything like that. The only thing you can do with the build charge is construct the paw. But the paw must be built on hills, and it will provide plus 4 combat strength to an occupying unit, and it will provide plus 2 turns of fortification. Both of these things are exactly the same as a standard fort. The only thing that the paw does special is that occupying units heal regardless of what actions they did in the turn. So regardless if you moved or attacked or did anything else in the turn, that unit that's on the paw will still heal at the end of the turn. Kind of similar to how the Mamluks of Arabia are. So the paw, I think, is... It's okay. I mean, I don't find that I, go placing them everywhere, but if you're in a situation where, you're having like a tough siege or something, or you really need to defend yourself super hard, putting down the paw is just a thing to do, because, I mean, you might as well. You have a free build charge on your Toas anyways, so you might as well just not waste it, and you might as well put one down, and if you don't like it, you can always just remove it with a builder later. So that's kind of my overall opinion on the paw, is that the healing part of it is definitely good, and so is the extra combat strength. So if you're in a pinch for some more, combat strength and some fortification, or maybe some extra healing, go ahead and place down a paw, and don't be like me. I'm someone that, even if I have extra resources, I won't use them because I'm worried I'll need them later. But really, if you find yourself in a situation that you feel like you need the paw, just go ahead and place it down because it's free anyways. Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about the Maori's unique building, which is known as the Marae, which is a replacement for the amphitheater in the theater square. So the Marae is very different from the amphitheater. So for one, it will provide plus 2 culture and 2 faith to all tiles in the city with a passable feature. So passable features are things like woods, rainforests, oases, geothermal fissures, pretty much anything on a tile that 1, you can walk on, and 2, is not a resource, and it's something that's not on just a plain tile, is considered a passable feature. So all of those things, I'm pretty sure that you can look on the wiki for like a list of all the passable features. I don't really want to put it up here because I don't want to just put a big list up, but most things that are on tiles that you can walk on that are just not on like a plain tile are considered passable features, and obviously mountains are not, because you can't stand on them. But this plus 2 culture and plus 2 faith, once again, it's literally just free yields. I mean, I guess it's not technically free in this case because you have to build the Marae, but even so, once you build the Marae, it's literally just free yields. That's it. So in a game, if you have 4 or 5, even a lot of times you have more than 5 passable tiles in your city borders. So this can give you 10, 12, 14 culture and faith, literally just from building this one little building that costs, I think it's like 150 production or something like that. So absolutely insane, and it even gets better whenever you get to flight. So once you research flight, you're going to get +2 tourism to all tiles in the city with a feature or a natural wonder. So note that this is with a feature. It doesn't even have to be a passable feature. It's just a feature. I'm pretty sure that this is how it works, so I think that this applies to mountains as well. I don't know about resources, but it's a little bit vague in its description, and it's very hard to test this because you have a lot of Marae in, your civilization, and once you hit flight, it's really impossible to tell exactly how much tourism you're getting from everything. So I'm fairly certain that this is literally just from every single feature, so mountains included in addition to the passable features, but I'm not 100% sure. But once again, it's free yields, and it's a lot of extra tourism that you get, and then this tourism will be affected by modifiers that you get from things like computers, and what's the other one? I think environmentalism is the other one that gives you the tourism boost. So yeah, that's kind of the story with the Marae, is that it's pretty much just an amphitheater, but better. It also doesn't have a maintenance cost, so the amphitheater normally has 1 gold per turn maintenance cost, the Marae has none. And the other thing is that since you can't recruit great writers, the Marae does not have any slots for great writing, which is just something to keep in mind. I mean, it's not really something you have to do anything with because you can't get the great writers anyways, but still just something that is a factor. But either way, the Marae, absolutely insanely good building, because free yields are always good. And now let's go ahead and talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of Kupe in the Maori and Civilization 6 Gathering Storm. So for the first strength, something that I've just ranted and raved about already is the insane number of free yields that Kupe gets. So he gets bonus production and food from mana, he gets bonus culture and faith from the Marae, and he gets bonus tourism once he researches flight with the Marae as well. So all of that together means that you can get a lot of yields for doing practically nothing. All that you have to do is really put down a few fishing boats and put down some Marae, and you get ridiculous yields. And it's so insane to the point where whenever I was playing Kupe, like, I don't think I've ever had an easier cultural deity game than when I was playing Kupe. Like, my culture was just, 100 to 200 above the next highest person in the game, and I really wasn't doing anything special. I was literally just, putting down cities and then building the Marae, and then all of a sudden my culture is insane, I hit flight, and my tourism's insane as well. So the amount of free yields that you get with Kupe for virtually no effort is easily his best strength, and something that just makes him stand out way above a lot of the other leaders in the game. One of his other strengths is that he does have a fairly strong early game. I should put an asterisk next to this because, well, his weakness is, we'll talk about it in just a few seconds here. But once you get your city down, you start, with a free builder, you start with extra housing and extra amenity, you start with extra population, you're able to put down tile improvements, you're able to just kind of get roaring right off the bat. You get those extra production and food from, or I guess production from your rainforest and forest tiles, you get extra food from your fishing boats that you can make with your builder that you start with. So those extra yields in the early game really set you apart from the other players and really give you quite a strong advantage. In addition to this, you do have the Toa, which is, I don't know if I would consider early game, but it's early enough to be considered in the same, relative time frame, which is a very good unique unit and something that you could utilize to maybe get yourself a little bit more land. The big weakness of Kupe, though, is pretty predictable, and that's he has extremely inconsistent starts. So although it is nice to be able to choose where you're going to start, you do have to be careful that you don't waste too much time roaming around looking for the perfect start. And the other issue that you run into is that it is very easy to go ahead and settle somewhere, only to realize that you settled, like 2 tiles away from somebody's borders the next turn, maybe because you just didn't see them because they were in the fog of war. So you Kupe starts are they're very much not consistent. They're all over the place. Sometimes they're really good and you can find a great spot. Sometimes you find a terrible spot and then 2 turns later you find that you settled 4 tiles away from someone else's capital, and then you have to fight them for it. So just that is easily the biggest problem with Kupe, but it is something that you can kind of do something about because in the end you do choose where you start, which is something that is very nice and very different from all of the other leaders in the game. And now it is time to give Kupe his tier ranking. So if you're new to the series, what I do is I give each leader a tier ranking in each of the 5 victory types, and those rankings just kind of gauge how good the leader is at achieving one of those victory types. I give them an overall ranking as well that takes into account all of those rankings, as well as things such as their versatility, their spawn biases, and things like that. All of our rankings go from S to F, with S being the highest and F being the worst. So without further ado, let's go ahead and rank Kupe. So Domination's up first, and I think that Kupe deserves a B in Domination. He's not an overly outstanding Domination Civ, but he does at least have some things going for him. So for one, he does have the Toa, which is a pretty strong, unique unit that you can use to steamroll people in the early/mid game. So that's definitely something that can allow you to kind of start your domination snowball at that period of time. The other nice thing is that just because Kupe is a he's an expansionist civ in a way, and that he does like to settle a lot of cities and settle on multiple continents, so that just kind of lends itself well towards a domination playstyle, in that you can establish your empire like quite largely, get a lot of land, get a lot of cities, and those having a lot of cities makes it so that you can build a lot of units. The other nice thing is that since Kupe gets a lot of yields for free, that means that you can have more time to construct units without falling behind in, things like having builders or having other, things that produce yields, because you get those yields for free. So that just gives you more time to produce units, and thus more time that you are free to amass an army to go kill somebody. So for those reasons, I think that Kupe deserves the B in domination. Science is up next, and I think that he deserves a C. He doesn't really just have anything going for him with science. He doesn't get any bonuses, and I admittedly almost gave him a D just because you generally don't want to, chop things to put down mines on Kupe. You wouldn't want to clear woods on hills to put down a mine for that extra production. But Kupe still does get a little bit of bonus production. Oh, I just said something very dirty. But he does get a little bit of bonus production from those forests and rainforests as well. So that kind of evens it out. And for those reasons, I think that he's just, fairly average, doesn't have any science bonuses, so he deserves the C. Culture is up next, and I think that there is no doubt in my mind about this, that Kupe deserves an S in culture. I think that he very well may be the best culture civ in the game. He gets so much free culture just from having passable tiles on in his city borders that it's absolutely ridiculous. You have to do virtually nothing and you get all this culture for free, which then allows you to get further into the civic tree, which allows you to get an edge on constructing wonders that are important for culture victory, and all of it just snowballs together so well to make him a great cultural civ. Then whenever you hit flight, you get all that free tourism as well, in addition to the fact that you can still put down seaside resorts and national parks and all of the things like that. So he gets so much free culture and free tourism that he is easily one of the easiest cultural leaders to play in the game, and definitely one of the best as well. So for that reason, I think he deserves the S tier ranking. Religion is up next, and I once again think that he deserves an S. He is easily one of the best religious civs in the game, simply because of all of those free yields that he gets. So, much like with culture, from the Marae, you get 2 faith from all of those passable tiles as well. So you can oftentimes get either, 10, 14, even more free faith in a city just from having one single building. All you have to do is build the Marae. The one thing that is a little bit tricky with Kupe is getting your great profit, because since you don't, since you start the game in the ocean, that can mean that you have to be a little bit diligent with getting your city settled, so that way you're able to research, I guess you're able to research astrology as you move, but the second that you research astrology, especially on deity, you kind of have to place down your holy site right away if you want to get a great profit. So as Kupe, you just have to be a little bit quick in making sure that you get down your first city, so that way you can construct the holy site for the great profit points. But I do find that this isn't terribly difficult to do, and just the general religious playstyle fits well with Kupe, and that you can just kind of settle around everywhere. You can get little bases for your religion to, train missionaries and apostles and things. And then you can use all that free faith that you get to go send them out and convert people. So for those reasons, I think that Kupe is one of the best religious civs in the game, and thus deserving of the S tier ranking. Diplomacy is up next, and I think he deserves a C. He really just doesn't have anything going for him in diplomatic victory, so not much else to say there. And for his overall ranking, I don't think this is going to be a surprise to pretty much anybody, but I think that he definitely deserves an S tier ranking. He is, as I mentioned before, he is probably, whenever I played Kupe, it was probably the easiest deity game that I've played in a long time. I was so far ahead of everybody else in culture that I was able to get to wonders way before even the deity AI were able to start constructing them. This allowed me to, get things like the Eiffel Tower, Cristo Redentor, all those important culture wonders. And then that allowed me to get a lot more tourism. I got the free culture, free faith, free tourism. And it was so easy to literally just cruise my way to a culture victory with Kupe. Just the sheer number of free yields that you get with Kupe is ridiculous, because I rarely had to build that many builders in the game, because my production was fine from getting the additional production from my forests and rainforests. My food was fine because I had all these forests and rainforests, which provide more food than plain tiles do. And I also had the additional food from fishing boats. I had plenty of sea resources. it was literally such a cakewalk that it was easily one of the, the best games that I've played on Deity in a long time. And I think the fact that Kupe is so easy in addition to being good makes him even better as a Civ, just because you don't have to be a pro to be good with Kupe. Like, someone like Persia has a bit of a higher skill gap, successfully using the Pairi Da Izaz to, boost your appeal to get high seaside resorts, high appeal seaside resorts and whatnot. But with Kupe, it's literally just you just play, and then you win. So for that reason, I think that he is easily amongst the best Civs in the game and deserving of the S tier ranking. So thank you everyone for watching. I have been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.